CargoWise Landside is deeply committed to revolutionizing landside logistics. With a complete enterprise system built for modern trucking and container drayage operators that includes proven drayage transportation management, digital rate and quote management, real-time container track and tracing, and on-demand truck, trailer, and container storage. Excellence in container drayage starts with the right software. Enhance transportation management, optimize shipment execution, and improve intermodal business operations with Trinium TMS, Draymaster, GeoStamp Track, and SecureSpace. To learn more, please visit cargowise.com/landside.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to TPM Today, the September 12th edition. I'm Erik Johnson. I'm your host, as always. When I'm not here, I'm the Senior Technology Editor at the Journal of Commerce. Really excited today to talk about a topic that in 2025, I honestly, would have predicted 10 years ago that I would not be talking about, but something that's still as important and relevant as it's ever been. So really excited to bring on my guest in a few minutes to talk about this mystery topic. But thanks everyone for joining. A couple things to highlight. We are less than 3 weeks away from Inland 25 in Chicago, downtown Chicago. If you've not registered, what the heck are you waiting for? Now is as good a time as any. The numbers are fantastic. We have a huge amount of people coming. We have 91 speakers. We have the CEOs of CSX and UP talking about what's going on in the merger world there. I'll be interviewing the CEO of XPO, former CIO. So there's the tech connection there, doing a whole bunch of sessions. I think I have 10 sessions, of which 8 are tech related. So if you are in truckload, LTL, intermodal, drayage, you need to be there. The event's going to be awesome. So really looking forward to that. Also, one other thing to put on your radar, early bird pricing for TPM expires at the end of this month. I think the 28th, technically. So this is the best chance to get the best rate you are going to get to attend TPM, which I know is an investment, but it's a worthwhile investment. So if you are planning to go, you might as well register now because these are the best rates you're going to get. Okay, news of the week. Newsy week. We're now in September. Everyone's back from their summer break. Kids are back in school. It's back into the crazy news cycle as we ramp up to the holidays. One story I wanted to highlight from my colleague Michael Angel, who did this story this week, which builds on some reporting we've done throughout the year about the impact of fees that are going to be assessed on Chinese built and operated vessels. Of which most shipping lines have some, if not a lot, in their fleets. So this week, CMA, CGM said they are not going to be passing along any extra fees associated with whatever they are charged for Chinese vessels arriving in U.S. ports, which is due to go into effect the end of October. Those fees are going to start to be assessed. I believe it's somewhere around $1 million per sailing into the U.S. So very interesting, right? The demand right now is not fantastic. Rates have plateaued, if not kind of sinking on the ocean freight side. So this is sort of a sense of the liner carriers know they can't really tack on additional fees at this point. We've done a bunch of reporting. Costco, another shipping line, a Chinese-based shipping line, has obviously come out with some statements. We're also hearing other shipping lines are now going out to customers saying, we have oriented our fleets such that we're going to minimize the impact of these fees on our networks. So lots more to come over the next few weeks. But I wanted to put this story on your radar because that's something we'll be tracking once again, especially as that October 29th deadline approaches. Okay, well, shifting gears, super excited to welcome onto the show this week, Erik Kiser, who's CEO of a company called Orderful. We're going to talk, the mystery topic was EDI, which if anyone saw the promo for this show, they would have gotten it. So I'm not exactly stealing the thunder there. But Erik, really excited to have you on today. Can you, before we get into Orderful, give people a little bit of background on what you did before founding Orderful?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to get reconnected. Yeah, I've been in EDI for the last almost 20 years. I got a computer science degree in college, and then like every decent Midwestern student, Big Ten student, I moved to Chicago and became a management consultant. And, I was 21 and traveling around the US and building EDI integrations. And that was kind of how I got introduced to the problem. I would go help companies like, a meat manufacturer in Rogers, Minnesota, or an auto parts manufacturer in the middle of Wisconsin, or, even like a dairy farm in California. And what I started to recognize is that, all of these really large manufacturers are using EDI across both the retail connections and supply chain and logistics connections. And that, also there weren't many like expertise in the United States to solve the problem. Started to see that, I was kind of the expert for these accounts, learn more about it, learn more about the incumbent solutions, and then eventually ended up building kind of the software that I had always wanted as a developer that didn't exist.
So you're like EDI lifer. This isn't some problem that you became aware of as a user, or you sort of like,
I love EDI. I love EDI.
Cool. You should get the T-shirt, right, instead of New York. I love EDI. There you go.
Yeah, maybe we should just change our company slogan to that.
What Big Ten school? Just did you go to a Big Ten school?
Yeah, I did. I went to Indiana. From Indianapolis, from the Midwest.
I went to Wisconsin, and then that's why I asked.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah, my family is Big Ten family too. So, but not the bad schools. No one from Michigan or Ohio State. Sorry for anyone who went there, but those
we have a few teammates at Orderful that went to those schools, but they're still good people.
They're good people. They just made bad choices at one point. So, I was actually in Columbus this week. So first time I was behind enemy lines in my life. But all right, light bulb moment for Orderful. You said, you obviously had the sort of scars probably from this. What was the moment where you're like, there's a better way to do this, and I think I know what that way is?
Yeah, it was, this is about 7 years into building these custom integrations on premise. And I was working with kind of legacy iPasses and middleware, and then also whatever software came with the ERP or TMS that the customer had.
Yeah.
But I started kind of integrating with all the incumbents and recognized that it would still take me about a quarter, maybe 2 quarters to go live with, a company like Walmart. And whether that was like a logistics transaction, like the 900 series of EDI, or retail, the 800 series, it took a very long time for me to get that job done. Mm-hmm. And I started to recognize that the job to be done for these companies was to onboard supply chain partners and to do that quickly. Because the longer that job took, the more they were actually spinning on me. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't great. That wasn't great for them. It was actually decent for me as a consultant. And I think that's kind of part of the reason why EDI has been stuck in its way, is that nobody had really been incentivized to build a different solution that was easy and fast, because everybody's making a ton of money building these custom solutions.
Right. And there was
what I recognize is that
there's pent-up demand if there's a 6-month wait to get an integration done, and you have to get in line. You're like that. It's painful, but you have to do it if that's the only way.
And by no means was I like a great developer, right? Pretty average, but I thought I was pretty darn good at my job, and it would still take a very long time to get the job done. Mm. And so then I started to kind of like ideate on, what are the right ingredients to build a platform where, you can have an EDI connection turn on like flipping a switch, right? Mm-hmm. So provide the customer an experience like, make EDI as easy as flipping a switch. And that's exactly the problem that we've attacked at Orderful. That's kind of our entire vision is let's turn an EDI into an experience like flipping a switch. And, our whole, our kind of our whole vision, our whole ethos is around speed, right? Every problem we're solving, we're trying to make it either faster for a company to go live or solve a production issue. But, the less time that companies spend on EDI, kind of we see that there's a lot more value for them with a solution that can kind of automate that entire experience.
So what your customers are, I would imagine a bunch of different segments, but what can you kind of people go into that?
A lot of different kinds. So we have really big logistics providers like, think like an ITS or like an NFI. We also support different SaaS platforms like a Mastery, right? Mastery TMS runs on Orderful. I'm blanking on a lot of the logistics companies, but there's also like hundreds of retail brands that use our product every day. We have over 600 customers now. The company's been around for 8 years. But we kind of support both retail and logistics and kind of everything in between, whether it's warehousing or payments.
Yeah. Jeff Silver at Mastery we just added him to the Inland program that I had referenced.
Yeah, he's great.
So good synergy there.
Those guys are awesome.
He's a legend. Interesting. Okay. So what you just mentioned, I think, is a window into EDI is this super important piece of the retail landscape that's outside of transportation and logistics. People in transportation and logistics, where I have spent most of my career, and I think where most of the people who tune in tend to focus on, have its sort of understanding of what EDI is and does, right? So, like, if I can kind of focus on the transportation and logistics side of things a little bit, give people a sense of where EDI reliance is to where it was like 10 years ago. And I asked that because about 10 years ago, people started popping into my brain this idea that EDI was antiquated. It didn't work. It was clunky. It was too rigid. APIs were going to replace them eventually. And obviously that has not happened. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great idea. In concept, right? To use a kind of modern integration layer like a RESTful API to trade. The challenge with that, the reason why companies haven't moved to that model is that, you kind of are creating the same problem just with a different technology, right? Mm-hmm. You think about like for a carrier, right? They're integrating with, hundreds of shippers. And these carriers, whether it's an API or EDI, they still have to build a point-to-point integration with these different shippers or brokers or whoever they're integrating with, and that the problem just moves to a different tech. So I think that's like kind of the main reason why a lot of companies haven't moved over to an API. Also, for a lot of shippers, like building an API, maintaining an API is actually quite difficult. You have to build documentation, you got to build the schema, you got to build different ways for people to interact with this technology. And, a lot of shippers are not technology companies, they are shippers.
They make their product or they sell the product. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, the EDI is still kind of the main mode of communication. And another reason is that everybody has it, right? It's like email. Like email is an awful experience, but it's been around for, since the beginning of the internet, call it 30 years.
It's the thing that binds us, whether we like it or not.
And like, you can't change it, right? Yeah. Like there's no way to get everybody on some new medium. So I think those are kind of some of the reasons why it hasn't changed. But in the logistics landscape, anybody that has a supply chain is trading EDI, whether you're an ocean carrier, an on land kind of a trucking carrier, or a shipper. Like all these companies are integrating and trading through EDI. Now there are some APIs out there, we handle both, but
Mhm.
the challenge is like, the challenge is the same as it was about 40 years ago, where, you have to build these point-to-point integrations to talk to each supply chain partner.
I always saw it as a prioritization issue rather than like a technical issue. Whereas you had, if you are a shipper and you had 50 different challenges that you needed to solve, EDI might have been one of those, but it was a relatively like painless challenge compared to some other things. And so it was never a big enough problem that it needed to be quote unquote tackled in the near term. And so, and it's sort of like perpetually that way because it worked well enough. Right. And to not rise to that level. Is that is that sort of what you experience as well?
What I experienced, as a consultant, I realized that it was always an afterthought, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was never kind of like the forefront of like, okay, how are we going to evolve our technology stack? It was never something that people looked at as kind of, call it a digital transformation effort, right? Because there was never a EDI product out there that was modern enough to actually, validate that kind of thought that we're actually upgrading or improving the system. But I'll give you an example. Like Hirschbach is a great customer of ours. Really large carrier. Hirschbach, they were going through they're going through kind of a whole kind of transformation effort on the back end of their platform, and they put EDI at the front. Right, they're like, hey, this is actually a big problem for us. We want to modernize the tech stack. We want to have like a really consistent data flow. We want it to be reliable. We want to understand what's happening behind the scenes. We no longer want this black box of custom code that has been here for 30 years and evolved into a spider web of problems. So when they moved over to Orderful, the experience for them is they get one API and then they can talk to all of their partners through our API, and that's actually has been a huge win for them. They were able to get all their partners live in less than 6 months. I think they had a couple hundred trading partners that they moved over. And the value that we provided them is, one, connection to trade with their entire supply chain, but also visibility into exactly what's happening with all these transactions, and the ability to also kind of embed what's happening with the transactions into their backend. So their business users don't have to, really understand EDI, or they don't have to like go to the depths of becoming an EDI developer. Instead, we're actually publishing all the results into their system of record. So they're kind of aware of like what's happening in real time, whether that's whether or not a trading partner received a transaction and they got an acknowledgement back, or the transaction didn't make it to them, they need to resend it. But kind of providing a lot of insight into actually what's happening behind the scenes in the places that they work. So kind of meeting the users where they are in their day-to-day.
Can you explain? So I want to dig into that a little bit, right? So can you explain if I am to think of the development of an EDI integration still being a rather cumbersome process for most people, your approach is the efficiency, taking aside that sort of data, putting the data in the right place for the business users, just the actual integration. Is the efficiency on your end the fact that it's this one-to-many approach and sort of how that works, or are you actually shrinking the development time of the integrations too?
Yeah, we are. So, the vision of the company is to turn the EDI experience into an experience like flipping a switch, right? Traditionally, for me, it took maybe 90 days to go live with a partner when I was doing this on premise. With our product, our customers are going live within 9 days on average. And the vision is, how do we continue to drive that go live time down even more? So how do we go from 9 days to 9 hours, 9 hours, 9 minutes, 9 minutes, 9 seconds, right? How do we actually turn this into an experience where, you log into our product, you click your backend system. So choose your TMS, choose your trading partners, and then you're set up and live. We're actually really close to solving that problem. We have some exciting software coming out with AI here in the next month that will get us closer from call it 9 days to 9 hours. And early next year, we'll get from 9 hours to 9 minutes with some backend integrations that are going to be published on the platform. So we're light years ahead of the rest of the market in terms of that experience. And it's because we built a platform that kind of has all the right ingredients that a customer needs to solve the problem. So the first thing we did is we built a network. So we have over 10,000 companies published in our network. And so what that means is we'll take their actual EDI guidelines, which traditionally are PDF files that they share over email. So if you want to trade with Walmart, for example, you maybe go to their portal.
You use the instructions on that PDF to build your
Oh man, it's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah.
This is where, this is kind of like the problem I saw was like, I couldn't believe I was actually having to interact with a PDF file and then build a flat file when I had just learned about APIs and web services in school. So yeah, you take this PDF. What we've done is we created digital copies of these requirements in our platform that are attached to a schema. So since we have that, when somebody hits our API, what we can do is validate their data in seconds. So when they interact with our product, they say which trading partner they want to trade with. We show them exactly what happened within their transaction, what was valid, what was invalid, so they can actually write a rule and solve those problems in seconds to actually translate the data to meet the requirements of the partner. So where we've done things really differently is we built this network and then we built this validation engine on top of it where we can tell you exactly what's right or wrong with your transactions. So that an end user, as they're iterating, right, as they're testing with a partner, they never actually have to talk to the partner. They don't have to wait for an email to come back to tell them that they're wrong. They actually can look at our product and see exactly what's wrong with the file and solve those problems in seconds. So that's kind of how we shrunk that go live experience. Also, we've built all this infrastructure that kind of pre-connects the supply chain. So if we're connected to Walmart already, we don't have to rebuild that plumbing. For example,
a new customer just taps into the things that you've already done in the past.
That's right. They tap into our API and then they have access to that entire network of connections. Whether it's like an AS2, a VAN, an FTP server. You can think of Orderful as as plumbing for these supply chain companies. You never want your plumbing to fail. And we have really good uptime. It's a disaster if it does. And the same thing goes with EDI, right? It's it's the lifeblood of these businesses. Like if there's a failure, KBX, which is a customer of ours, would lose, hundreds of millions of dollars a day in business. So there's really big risks with the problem as well. And we've done a really good job kind of building trust with the market and providing a very stable solution.
You mentioned AI, and I wanted to get into that in a sec, but I also wanted to get a sense of, okay, I sort of took things back like 10 years ago when APIs started to be discussed in logistics and supply chain. Has something, aside from AI, something sort of transformed on the architecture level that is enabling you to do what you're doing? Or was it just a matter of this was all possible 10 years ago? It's just no one on the vendor side prioritized this.
Yeah, look, I'm not like a genius. This isn't like this isn't a novel idea.
And
no. Very average dude. But what I did is I saw how our competitors now, how they were marketing, how they were going to market with their products, but not actually delivering the value they were promising. And so that was kind of my motive.
These would be those sort of business connectivity platforms like Commerce.
Yeah, I think like an SPS Commerce, a True Commerce, a Clio, like all these big guys that, there's over 7 companies in our space that are doing above, call it 400 million in revenues. And they're basically just cash cow businesses with, kind of a terrible product experience. So I took kind of ingredients of how they went to market, learned from them about what they learned about how to market but actually built the product that they could never deliver on.
You would have wanted to use when you were consulting.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's been It's been really challenging. Like our first 5 years at Orderful were really, really hard, but the last 3 years we've been growing like wildfire. We're company's 100 people now, and the thing I'm most proud of is we're actually solving the problem, right? Like our customers are actually going live in 2 weeks or less, which was unheard of before. So that's been really fun for me, and we won't stop until we turn this into a light switch.
9 seconds. AI. You mentioned AI. I feel like I can't have a conversation these days without at least broaching the subject of AI. How does like,
well,
I think it's really interesting. How do you? It's interesting to be talking to you because like EDI is thought of as this sort of like antiquated plumbing upon which the industry is based, and then they're also like having to balance some sort of how do I automate, or how do I use AI to automate some of this stuff. So how does that mesh?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways in which we're using AI. Like one of the ways we're doing it is we are actually communicating with the trading partner networks. So like if we need to onboard a new trading partner, we're using an AI agent to do that, right? So instead of a network enablement specialist on our team reaching out to, let's say, retailer XYZ or shipper XYZ, right? We're using an agent to do that. So that's actually been quite cool. We've automated that entire experience. And all that's happening over email, because it's still, the big challenge with EDI is actually, kind of the David and Goliath problem, where you have, the small company like a carrier, dealing with a massive shipper, and getting their attention, or following up or communicating with them is really hard. So AI has been really helpful for us there to kind of scale that experience. Yeah. It just constantly kind of like it reads their questions, it answers their questions, gives them all the information they need. But we're also using it from a product perspective to kind of reimagine how our product is served to the market. So instead of companies writing rules in our platform, we're going to be releasing a product where we use AI to automate the entire experience. I'm going to tease it there, but that will take the onboarding time from 9 days to 9 hours, which is kind of unheard of in our space. So the other thing it allows us to do is build a really simple API. The API that we have now with our customers is, it's basically a replica of the X12 or EDIFACT standards, which are the EDI standards. And the reason why we did that is because we had to be really flexible, because every partner has their own requirement. But with AI, with the invent of this,
you could just prompt technology, it to do a custom thing for each customer, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's actually it's for each trading partner, right? And you do it once. So for each 10,000 of those connections, we're building these maps with a very simple API. So instead of there being a 2,000 field API schema, our customers are now dealing with a 20 field load carrier response message, like a 990, right? It's instead of it being like a really massive payload, it's really small, because what we can do is pull data from inbound and use AI to automatically map to the trading partner specs. So some really cool opportunities with it. We had been really close to it for about 3 or 4 years, and we had a research team from Berkeley trying to build an EDI integration with AI. That didn't work, right? AI is not there to actually go and build a point-to-point kind of end solution for an enterprise, but actually using it within the infrastructure of the platform that's already there has been quite successful. So we're really excited about releasing this new product.
Cool. Well, more to come, obviously. Last question. Every guest gets this question. Who's your favorite band or musician? And you have to tell me why.
Well, I was just at Burning Man. I don't know if you've ever been, but it's a pretty amazing event.
Yeah.
I love electronic music, love house music. I love kind of niche artists. There's an artist called Birds of Mind. I believe they're out of France, but Birds of Mind plays Birds of Mind.
Birds of Mind.
Yeah, okay. They're great. They're my favorite. It just feels good. It's like very empowering music. You feel free. It's awesome.
All right, cool.
Those
Well,
guys are great.
that's good for the weekend, everyone. For your minds here.
Yeah.
What's the best way to get
Well,
in touch with you?
they have a track called "No Time for Tears," so that's
Okay.
that's the one I've listened to after this.
Start
But
with
we
that
don't have
one.
time.
All
We don't have time for tears. We just move on. We just keep going.
What is the good way to reach you?
Yeah, you can email me at Erik, ERIK @orderful.com, or hit us on the web. Come to orderful.com. If you want to talk to somebody on our team, fill out a form, submit a lead, and we'd love to talk to you guys. If anybody comes from the show, we'd be, we're happy to give you a free trading partner, give you a free first trading partner for free for a year. Come and try the platform out, see for yourself, and become a believer that there is
advantages of listening to the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thanks, Erik. This has been really, really insightful, and thanks for spending some time with us this morning. And,
yeah, great to see you again, man.
To reach out for more on this. Tim, thanks, Erik. Tim, great comments. He mentioned for implementation, order, invoice, ASN, speedy implementation is great for forecast response. There are business processes on the back end that make rapid implementation dangerous. So that's an interesting comment, Tim. I appreciate that. All right, we're over time, but dad joke of the week time. We got new sound effects. Did you know that the first French fries weren't cooked in France? They were actually cooked in Greece. Now I feel like I got a little reaction. It was always weird telling dad jokes and not knowing if anyone laughed, but now they always laugh. So thanks, Nicole. I appreciate it. You're good for my self-esteem. I thought it was a pretty good joke this week. Thanks so much to Erik. Really appreciate your time and perspective on age-old EDI and where it's going in the future. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Without your support, the show would not be happening. So really appreciate it. Thanks to the Let's Talk supply chain team for everything they do. Register for Inland, register for TPM. What are you waiting for? I'll see you at both events. Bye, everyone. Have a great